up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Daniel here from the Geek Speak Nation channel, and I'm here to bring you all the long-awaited episode 2 of the Cinemaniacs podcast. And on today's episode, we are going to talk about my top 10 movies of the year so far. So, you know, it's August, it's almost September, we're more than way through half of the year, so I think it's about time to really talk about the movies that have stuck out to me personally, and just get in depth and see what's been going on, and recommend some movies that you guys should probably see yourselves. So right off the back, we have the film The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. This is directed and written by Jon Schnepp. Now, Jon Schnepp, he's a YouTuber. You can find him on Collider videos. He's a really, really great guy. He really knows a lot about movies, really cares about them. And he made this documentary about a Superman movie that was going to be directed by Tim Burton and star Nicolas Cage as Superman. And it's a really, really awesome documentary that gets in depth about what that project was going to be. And that's really what it is. It's just this fantasy piece about what was all involved and what was going to happen, and Tim Burton's strange yet extraordinary take on the Man of Steel and the lore, and putting that for a wide audience with a massive budget, and finding out why that didn't happen and where that went wrong. And it really does stick to the ideal of truth is stranger than fiction. And when you meet some of the people involved, specifically one of the producers who was associated with the film when it was going to be created, John Peters. John Peters, he's a producer, made films like Wild Wild West, hundreds of others, I believe. But yeah, he's done a lot. He's it's a really interesting character, and these are just real people, and they're real stories about their experience working on the film, and it's really interesting to see how this all inevitably panned out. And it would have been an extraordinary film to see, and it's a well done, well made documentary by Jon Schnepp. So my hat is off to him, it really is. So up next, my number 9 pick is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. So this is the 5th entry into the Mission Impossible series, and if this movie proves anything, it proves that Tom Cruise is literally willing to do anything that producers or writers or fans tell him to do. Like, this film is just really great. I know some story beats don't really pan out. It's a little bit of slow burn at certain points, but really this is just an awesome action film, really suspenseful, really gripping. This is directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who did Jack Reacher, Edge of Tomorrow. So he's done some really awesome films with Tom Cruise, and seeing them team up again is really great for this film, and it really shows. Their chemistry really shows on screen, and how he directs him, and the performance that Tom Cruise gives. I think it's one of the better Ethan Hunt performances in the franchise, in the sense that you get a little bit more from Tom Cruise and the entire cast, and it's a really awesome, really fun film, very well directed, suspenseful, and the stunts are just incredible. The opening, this isn't really a spoiler, but the opening scene in which Tom Cruise is hanging at the side of a plane is just, it's death defying, and it's awesome. And yeah, it's really worth going to go see, I think. So then we're going to move on to our number 8 film, which is a film known as A Most Violent Year. This film is directed by J.C. Shendor and also written by him, and stars Oscar Isaacs, Jessica Chastain, and David Oyelowo. This is a really, really interesting film. It takes place in 1981 New York City, and is about an ambitious immigrant who fights to protect his business and family during the most dangerous year in the city's history. And he works with his own oil company, and he's fighting to keep it together and keep his family together while the police are coming after him and investigating what his history is, and also his wife's history, whose family is all caught up in mafia and mob connections. And it's a really riveting film on that front of just trying to figure out the mystery of like who's coming after him and who's trying to take apart his company. But where the fireworks really go off in this film is just in the scenes between Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain. They just give magnificent performances with one another and just strict dialogue as this couple waging wars at certain points against one another for trying to fight for what's best for their family. And seeing that power struggle between the two is just so captivating. Those two performances alone make the movie worth the price of admission. And I also got to give it up to the director JC, because man, oh man, he's able to give this very strange juxtaposition between this cold outside look of New York City, because it takes place during the winter during most of the film, and it's just this cold, dreary, blank canvas that he's able to portray on the outside, but on the inside it's this lush, colorful designs in the inside that really bring an entirely different life to it and a warmth to the film itself. And I'm not quite sure what film ratio this was filmed on, but I knew it had definitely something to do with it, because there's just something about the way it's technically filmed that just really brings it to life in certain ways when you get into the interiors of scenes. So A Most Violent Year, highly recommend it. You should definitely go check it out. So moving on to number 7, we have, drum roll. I'm kidding, there's no drum roll. I'll just say it anyways. AntMan. This is directed by Peyton Reed, I believe. Yes, Peyton Reed, and was written by a multitude of people. Edgar Wright, Joe Cornish, Paul Rudd, and I think there's like 7 other credits for this. And Adam McKay, as well as Paul Rudd. And so this is Marvel's second movie that came out this year. Age of Ultron was the first. And I didn't like, personally, Age of Ultron as much as I did this movie. But that's besides the point. Sticking to Ant-Man, it stars Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, and Corey Stoll, as well as Evangeline Lilly, Michael Pena, T.I., various other characters and actors. Man, I just loved this movie. It is a heist film overall, but at the center of it, it's just a very gripping piece about fathers and daughters and the relationships between family and what people are willing to do and the sacrifices we make for those people. And I think what really drives this movie home for me is just the acting in this film. And the characters, even though some characters can get a little cartoonish at times, like Michael Pena's character, what really drives it home is the core of these characters, and you feel that they actually care for the situations that they're in. They actually care for one another, and they're just very well written and very well realized. And that's really refreshing to get in a comic book movie nowadays, especially coming off the heels of something like Age of Ultron, where you get these big, bombastic, millions and millions of dollar budgets into films with extremely large casts, but you don't get the time to buckle down and focus and develop on these characters as much as you want to at times. And I think Ant-Man does it really well. And a lot of cards were stacked against this film. Originally, this film was going to be directed by Edgar Wright, who's known for doing the Cornello trilogy with Simon Pegg, as well as he did the film Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. He has a very unique and distinct voice, and you definitely see hints of that, because he worked on this film for about, I think it was like 8 or 9 years before it actually got made, and developing this film into his own creation. But as the Marvel Cinematic Universe got built, it just did not fit the vision that producers like Kevin Feige saw fit into their whole master plan of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe was going to be. And so Ant-Man is you get the sense of the kind of battle between what Peyton Reed wanted to make the film after Edgar left, and you see the little droplets of what Edgar had created and the brilliance that was there as well. And that's not a knock to Peyton Reed. I think he does a phenomenal job and really handles himself very, very well. And I think those are tough shoes to fill, even though everyone is banking against this movie. It turned out great, in my opinion, and I think it was really awesome. So, coming in at number 6, we have Straight Out of Compton. This is directed by F. Gary Gray and is written by Jonathan Herman, Andrea Burloff, and many others, and stars O'Shea Jackson Jr., Corey Hawkins, and Jason Mitchell. So basically, this film, it is about the group NWA and how they were formed in the mean streets of Compton in Los Angeles, California in the mid 80s, and how they revolutionized hip hop culture in general, and how their music and their tales about life of living in the hood, as some people like to say it, and how those tales really shaped who they were and who people were and the culture around them. And man, oh man, this is just a riveting film. This film, it's not shy. It's very blunt. It's very realistic, and I really enjoyed that. It's a very visceral film about the culture and the oppression that was going on at the time. And there's so many elements of this film that, as a black male, is so prevalent and important to me right now. And I felt like this film really struck a chord with me at the perfect time. And I think it's a great film, not just because of its content, but just the way it is made. Director F. Gary Gray. I'm not really that previously was not really that big of a fan of his work. I mean, he did films like Friday, which is like a cult classic, and Law Abiding Citizen, which is an all right film, but he just knocks it out the park with this film. And I think what shines the most in this is his subtlety. He makes great usage of lighting and kind of giving this. He's able to convey hope through his direction and his choices of lighting and the way he guides the camera. It really makes you feel like you're in these scenarios, and he works long takes very, very well. And he's just doing just such a phenomenal job in this film with his directing. And I just got to give my hat off to him alone on that. His directing is phenomenal in this. But also what really and truly brings this movie to life are the performances by O'Shea Jackson Jr., Corey Hawkins, and Jason Mitchell. So O'Shea Jackson Jr. is the son of O'Shea Jackson, aka Ice Cube, who is one of the founders of NWA. And man, O'Shea really brings it home, and he doesn't give this corny performance of portraying his father. He really commits to who this person was before we see him in the things like where I think it's like where are we there yet? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and things like that. So he really gets into this grittier, darker side of his father, and he really brings that out in often uncomfortable ways, but he's very honest in that portrayal, and you can tell he really committed to wanting to give he was really committed to giving a masterful performance, not just playing his dad. And also Corey Hawkins does an excellent job as Dr. Dre. He really hits these very, very hard emotional character beats very well. And my hat's off to him, because he really carries the film at certain points and at some of the most pivotal points, especially the ending. And last but certainly not the least, Jason Mitchell. This man portrays Eazy-E in the film, and to me is the best performance of the entire film, and in my honest opinion, should go up for an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. I just think he does a phenomenal job. His performance is so subtle, which is a very big thing about this film. It's not about being too showy, it's about being raw. He brings that, but he's able to just weave in so many intricacies of this character and makes Eazy-E so real and relatable and so driven yet vulnerable yet powerful, and he just gives an amazing performance. Jason Mitchell really elevates this film to new heights, and it's a phenomenal performance. It's a phenomenal film. You gotta go see Straight Out of Compton, and not just for the directing or the writing, which is great, but it's just a very gripping biography about what happened during this time period. And I really do think that this film is very prevalent back then as it is now. in the sense of what it's talking about and its story content. So, moving on to number 5. We're in the top 5, ladies and gentlemen. So, we are winding on down. So, with number 5, we have an independent film, and it's a film known as A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. This is what's the best way to describe this? It's an Iranian vampire western love story. Let that sentence sink in. It's a vampire classic in my opinion as well. It is about, so it takes place in an Iranian ghost town known as Bad City. And the townspeople are unaware that there's this lonely vampire that lives in the town and stalks some of the people at night and attacks them. And that's just the simple premise of it. But it's just a beautiful, beautiful love story. And it's so unique in its atmosphere. It's something that leaves you feeling mesmerized and enchanted, but at the same time fearful and haunted. It's such a beautiful, beautiful film in that way, how it's able to balance so many elements and also speak upon certain topics like feminism. And even though I don't think the director intended it to be like that, but it's a very empowering film for women, and I love that, and the way it portrays it, and it's able to just go out and be so bold. And that's really what the film is. It's very, very bold, and I loved it. And I have to give it up for Anna Lily Amirpour, I believe is how you say her last name. She is the director and writer of this film, and I am looking forward to her next projects, because I heard she's going to be doing a film with Keanu Reeves and some other actors, and I'm like, yo, you got Keanu Reeves in your movie, you already sold me. But especially with this director/writer, she has done a phenomenal job with this film, and I can't wait to see more of what she does. And the performances in this film are great, especially by the lead female actress, Sheila Vand. Man, oh man, does she give this creepy, eerie, yet beautiful and alluring performance as the vampire. Loved it so much. I cannot recommend A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night highly enough, obviously. So, moving on to number 4, we have Ex Machina. So this film is directed by Alex Garland, who wrote the film Dread, which is a really awesome action movie you should check out as well. So this is about a young programmer who is selected to participate in a groundbreaking experiment in an artificial intelligence lab by evaluating the human qualities of a breathtaking female AI. So this film also stars Alicia Vikander as the main robot or AI, Domhnall Gleeson, and Oscar Isaacs, who was previously in the film I mentioned, A Most Violent Year. So, Oscar Isaacs, you're killing it, man. First off, I gotta say that. The performance by Oscar Isaacs, he truly is something, the way he is able to immediately switch between so many different roles, yet at the same time is able to give each character all these nuances and depth. It's phenomenal. I think he's one of the best up-and-coming actors right now. I can't wait to see him in more things, because I'm loving literally every single thing he's in, as well as Domhnall Gleeson, who's in this film, who plays as the programmer who goes to visit the eccentric billionaire played by Oscar Isaacs. Domhnall Gleeson, he was previously in this film known as Frank, his independent film that came out last year, which is one of my favorite films of last year, which you should also go check out. I got recommendations at the wazoo for this episode. But yeah, Domhnall Gleeson gives a wonderful performance here as well. I don't think he particularly shines out as much as the other cast members do, but he gives a really great performance. Alicia Vikander, who plays as the AI, she is able to convey innocence and danger and supreme knowledge, yet can be this sexual being, but at the same time can be so much more. It's such an amazing, subtle performance, the way she's able to switch between so many levels of ranges of acting. The performances are phenomenal in this film, but what really drives this film home for me is Alex Garland's directing and his writing. The directing is just it's top notch. The way it's framed, the clashes between the organic set pieces of the outside and the not necessarily cold, but the very framed, rigid structures of the inside. It's very interesting the way Alex is able to convey that through his directing, but also his writing is just something really beautiful, because when you're dealing with the topic like AI, you're able to talk about obviously putting humanity under the microscope and analyzing, okay, what about us as humans can we learn from this? And so Alex Garland is able to tackle these deep, interesting topics about human sexuality and human intelligence and then human evolution, but without ever making you feel stupid, without ever trying to preach to you, without ever trying to talk over you. It's able to convey these deep, introspective messages, but it's never in a way that hurts the audience. You know, it's not like you're dealing with Wes Anderson. That's his name, Wes Anderson. Sorry, I had to blank out for a second there. I was trying to remember his name. But it's not like dealing with a Wes Anderson film, you know. It's not dealing with the who directed Grand Budapest Hotel, things like that, you know. It's not like dealing with a director who makes you feel dumb, you know. He's not dumbing it down, but at the same time, he's able to give it to you straightforward in an understandable and a relatable way. I truly, truly do adore Ex Machina, and I think it's a film that upon multiple viewings, you get more and more out of it, and it's really fantastic, so I'd recommend it. And moving on to number 3, we have Slow West. This is directed by John McLean, I think, or McLean. Yeah, we'll stick with McLean. It stars Cody Smith-McPhee, Michael Fassbender, and Ben Mendelsohn. So, this is about a young Scottish man who travels across America in pursuit of the woman he loves, attracting the attention of an outlaw who is willing to serve as a guide. This is a really, really interesting film. It's like taking the direction and style of a European director, someone who not necessarily like Swedish directing, but very close between that and French, between taking those styles of directing and you applying that to a Western film. That's really what this film is, and it kind of reminds me of bringing this man up again, but a Wes Anderson film. And it's really interesting the way this film blends in between heart-pumping, adrenaline rushing, brutal violence, but at the same time can be this sweet, melancholy tale with dark humor about love and life and death. And the way it's able to convey it with such subtlety is really, really awesome. I think the performances in this movie are fantastic. Cody Smith-McPhee, new up-and-coming young actor. I think he's going to be doing great things, and I cannot wait to see what he comes up with next for his next role. Michael Fassbender, everything he does, he kills it. I mean, this guy's unstoppable. He's insane, and he just gives a great performance in this film as someone who tries to deny the innocence of life and tries to focus on the brutality of mankind. I think it's really interesting. Overall, I think Slow West is a really great tragedy. It's a really great story about unrequited love, and it's just something so relatable and so timeless. And I think this movie's really going to stick around as a fan favorite film, as a cult classic, really, if it doesn't gain the following I think it deserves. So really, go check out Slow West. And so things are heating up as we reach our final 2. And with number 2, we have the film Southpaw. Southpaw is directed by Antoine Fuqua, written by Kurt Sutter, and stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Rachel McAdams, Unya Lawrence, and 50 Cent, who's now going by Curtis Jackson in his acting. What is that his real name? Am I saying his real name? Who cares? Anyways, as well as Forrest Whitaker. I saw this movie with my mom, and I didn't know what to expect. Because first off, don't see the trailer for this film because it spoils everything. And second off, I saw this movie. Going back to my first point, really, I saw this movie with my mother, and I think that was the perfect atmosphere. Because seeing this movie with someone with the parent-child relationship, I didn't know that that's what this movie was going to be about. But it's about Billy Hope, and who Jake Gyllenhaal plays, and his daughter, played by Uwan, I think that's how you say it, Uwan Lawrence. And it's about their relationship, and man, it is a gut punch. It is a gut punch of a film. The movie feels like you went 12 rounds. You know, it feels like you were in the ring because you feel so beat up and broken emotionally, but at the same time you want to keep going, and that's what the film is trying to bring out. And it's just masterfully done. Anton Fuqua, his directing is on point. He, the way he directs the scenes and really gives actors room to breathe and emote is really great. But the way he directs the action sequences of this film, the way he directs the boxing, the way he does the POVs and he actually has the actors hitting the camera, the way it's cut so close and tight, it is phenomenal. It feels like you're watching an HBO fight, but the stakes are even higher because you know them so personally. I think Southpaw is just amazingly directed by Anton Fuqua. He does a phenomenal job. And the writer Kurt Sutter, even though the movie is cut and dry, it hits the cliches of a boxing movie. Boxer's big, he's on top of his game, tragedy hits him, he's got to rebuild, montage, big fight, whether he wins or loses, that's the point. But that's not the point of the film. It's not about the beats. I think you can forgive the hitting a lot of the boxing cliches because it does it so well, and not in the sense of like, oh, they hit the typical thing so well. It's that it brings this raw emotion that you don't get to see very often in films lately, man. Like, it is just something extraordinary, and and I got to give it up to Jake Gyllenhaal and Rachel McAdams, but their performances are really raw, and the emotions they bring out from themselves that is able to bring out of the audience is just something powerful. Jake Gyllenhaal is I gotta say, he's my favorite actor right now, because every time he steps into a role, he is not himself anymore. I think ever since I started seeing this, ever since the movie Prisoners, he has been just changing himself as an actor and becoming the roles that are on paper and bringing them to life with a physicality and a mentality and a spirit. Like, you get the sense of this is not the same person that you see in interviews or on red carpet. He does such a wonderful job in this role and just brings it all the way home. Loved every single moment of Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, and it carries you throughout the entire film. But I think the true standout performance in this film is Uwani Lawrence, the girl who plays as the daughter, Layla Hope, in the film. My goodness, she gives this heart-wrenching performance as the daughter, and watching these two play off one another as just two people trying to recover after tragedy and trying to push through hard circumstances is just so beautiful the way it's done. And I'm just thoroughly impressed by her performance and just blown away by the way the two work together. I think Southpaw, despite it hitting the cliches, is a phenomenal film, and it's just pure emotion and pure intensity, and I loved every single moment of this movie. I highly recommend you go see Southpaw, but make sure you bring a box of tissues, because my mother and I made that mistake of not bringing those, and, well, it was a tragic sight. Now, moving on to my number one movie of the year, Mad Max Fury Road. This film is a masterpiece. Yes, I said it. I don't care what people say. I know people are just saying it's just an amazing action movie. No. Not only is Mad Max Fury Road one of the greatest action films of all time, it is the best film of the year so far. This movie is directed by George Miller, written by George Miller, and Bernadette McCarthy, and some other people, whatever. Stars Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, Nicholas Hoult. We got the credits out the way. This post-apocalyptic movie does something unique. It's 2 hours of straight action, but the way George Miller is able to develop the characters through justifiable action is magnificent. I just watched this film for a second time last night, I believe it was, and it is magnificent. It is brilliant how just simple shots and cutaways build character. The way George Miller is able to intricately just weave together these characters and these plot devices and build this universe is just astounding. George Miller is a genius. This is genius filmmaking from everybody involved, not just the acting. Charlize Theron is the best. She does the best acting in this movie. She's phenomenal. Tom Hardy is great as well as Nicholas Hoult. But the true star of this film, and I can't say it enough, is director-writer George Miller, who's been on this franchise. You know, he created it. You know, it's just something magnificent. The way he intricately and meticulously designs every single set piece, car, character, you know, plot device, the action is just insane. It is some of the best action ever put onto screen. It is heart pounding. It is adrenaline pumping in its purest form. That's what the film feels like. It is pure adrenaline. It is amazing. It is an amazing work of art. Mad Max Fury Road is a masterpiece of filmmaking, and I stand by it. It is insanity and action in its purest form, but at the same time, it is a deeper look into madness through unique character development, through the actions these people take. I love this film, guys. Buy this film on Blu-ray. It comes out September 1st, I believe it is. Buy this film when it comes out. Watch it over and over again. Show your friends. It is amazing. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude the second episode of the Cinemaniacs podcast. Thank you all so much for joining me and listening to me, if you bear this much into it. Talking about my top 10 movies of the year so far. And just stay tuned for when we drop the next episode, which should be in about 2 weeks. If we keep to this bi-weekly schedule, then that's when it shall be. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe if you like the video, so we can have a little chitter-chat, and you can tell me some of your favorite films of 2015, because I'd love to hear it, guys. You know, we love talking to you, and it's really nice to have friends. Anyways, with that, I'm going to leave you all with a little bit of outro. We're going to do this differently. So I'm going to be playing music from fellow artist Des Honest, who's been contributing to the channel with amazing music. So I'm going to play one of his songs to lead us out. I'll leave his SoundCloud in the description below if you like the music that you hear. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to get geeky.